The stakes are high and needs are more complex when running an established consumer products brand. You've got mounting pressures across multi channel sales, complex supply chains, inventory across multiple warehouses, and leadership needs fast, accurate data to make decisions. That's why leading brands partner with Baker Tilly, an accounting firm that specializes in the consumer product space. Their team understands the unique challenges of scaling product-based businesses, whether it's navigating transactions confidently, sales tax compliance, integrating ERP systems like NetSuite, or predictive analytics. Baker Tilly delivers. Discover how Baker Tilly's industry-focused services can help elevate your business. Visit bakertilly.com.
I remember meeting with Omniture back in the day, and before they built that huge Adobe, office.
Yep.
What other companies are out of that, have worked out of that campus? There's been some really big ones.
So WordPerfect, I was Novell here for a while.
Yeah, I was there for a while.
Omniture, obviously was one of the other big names. Blue Raven Solar, they've been. I think they're still here.
So I've got a couple questions from you. So starting off kind of softballing, and we're really glad that you could join us on the pod. So Bill, what is the better city? Is it Toronto or is it Montreal?
So if you're asking a Canadian that, what you're really asking is, are you a Leafs fan or a Canadiens fan?
Basically it, yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And I grew up as a Leafs fan. But in my adult life, I actually prefer the city itself of Montreal. I love, it's got a little bit of a European feel to it still. And the people are just wonderful. I love it.
We've got somebody from Montreal joining the Retail Collective panel with you on May 6th and 7th.
Right on.
Jake Carls, the founder of Midday Squares. They're blowing up too. So yeah, we'll have a couple of you Canadians speaking, which is going to be awesome.
Well, we'll have to keep our accents in check. And as soon as I get around another Canadian, my Canadian accent comes back immediately. Yeah.
You're probably pretty excited about the NHL team here in Utah. You get to go see some of your old teams from Canada.
I just watched the Canadians play last week.
Did you really?
Yes, and they won. And my boys were like, "Who are you going to cheer for?" I was like, "Guys, I've got to cheer for the Canadians. I'm sorry. I'm all in. I'm all in on the Mammoth. Thrilled that they're here. That's who I cheer for, but not when they're playing Montreal or Toronto."
I always got that question with BYU and Oklahoma. I went to Oklahoma, and I was like, well, I hate to tell you, I kind of cheer for Oklahoma. I recently just took the boys to the Oklahoma Sooners Alabama game in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable game. It was pretty intimidating. There's like 100,000, Bama fans there, but they put on a show. It was so fun.
Incredible.
So with Troomi, I was just reading some of your bio. You are, it's pretty incredibly impressive. I'll just put it that way. So you went to BYU. It looks like you got some academic. You got some of those good grades that I didn't get in college, which is really cool. And then you stuck around. And what was your first job out of college?
So I did a couple things right out. I was still actually in school when I started my first business.
Really?
And it was a marketing agency that a guy that was in my program, he and I had become friends and decided we were going to do what we called a self-made internship. And we started a marketing agency, just the two of us, and it was very, very, very small. But then I, at the same time, got my first corporate job and went from being an intern to a marketing manager to global director of public relations for a multinational software company based in Utah. that was in the library technology space. And that was a phenomenal experience. And after I'd been there for, it was about 2 or 3 years, this little agency that we had started was actually becoming something. And I left the corporate world to go into the agency world full time.
Do your own thing. That's right. Well, that's really cool. I was noticing, obviously, you're one of the co-founders of Gab. Tell me about the Gab story. What brought this whole idea to your attention?
Yeah, so that goes back to 2018, and I was still in my agency life, and a gentleman came into the agency working on another project altogether. But in the course of our conversation, we got talking about kids and technology and all the danger that was out there and how there wasn't a good solution in the market. You could give your kids an iPhone that's powerful enough to launch a space shuttle, or give them something like a flip phone, which frankly at the time they were becoming harder and harder to find.
Yeah.
And anyway, we ended up talking for an hour or an hour and a half, and had a lot of shared passion. And he came back in and said, "Hey, I can't stop thinking about our conversation. Let's do something about it." And I said, "What do you have in mind?" And he said, "Well, why don't we start a cell phone company for kids?" And and I was passionate enough that I said, "Yeah, let's do that." And he and I got working, really, really closely, and that was the genesis of what became Gab. And through different experiences and different perspectives and visions, I ended up leaving to do something different. But Gab's been a phenomenal player in the market, and I think it's fantastic that the two biggest companies helping kids are both from Utah. I think it's a great thing.
I'm definitely passionate about that topic too. I've got 7 kids. I have a son who's almost 18, and he finally we got him his first iPhone. But that was a difficult decision. I wanted him to go through almost all of high school without one. It's just crazy, but the amount of bullying that happens with kids, the type of content they can actually get into, the music they were able to listen to, it's just like you try as hard as you can to like raise them to be kind of protected, and then immediately you undo everything you just did the moment you give them a typical phone. It's like, what am I doing? Is this really worth it? And so we've gone down, and we've kind of have been a real champion of trying to support the industry in total. I just feel the same way with VidAngel and Angel Studios. It's just like what they've done is absolutely incredible.
Yes.
So many shows for so many movies forever that I was like, well, I'd love to watch that movie, but I'm not going to watch it. It's just got too much. It's just like it's too much for me.
Yeah. Well, and I'm shocked at how often I'll say, "Hey kids, I need to show you a movie I watched when I was a kid," and I turn it on and go, "My parents let me watch this?"
That's right. Holy cow! I don't remember it being this crazy.
Exactly. We were too young to catch the innuendos, I guess.
So it's been so incredibly important to the general society and general public, and all 3 companies have really, really taken off. And that's we've had just great experiences. And the Troomi what I've read up on Troomi. My kids have had Gab phones because most of them have been pretty young. What I hear with Troomi is it allows a little bit more of a graduation on some of the apps that you can access a little bit more, and the phone is a little bit more sophisticated. The Gab does a great job typically with the younger kids, some of my 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, and then Troomi typically does a little bit better on the older, kind of the pre-adult. Do I have that perspective right?
Well, I'll just speak generally to kind of what we were trying to accomplish. And that is, we looked at the landscape and said, hey, younger kids, they should be starting with talk and text only. Yeah. And but we said, let's have a vision of graduating kids from one level of features and functionality and technology to the next based on real practical needs and based on their age and maturity, as their maturity evolves. And so we said, hey, let's create an approach with Troomi where you can start a younger kid with the basics, talk and text, and then say, hey, you've learned how to text responsibly. Now let's introduce group text and picture messaging and have the teaching moments along the way. These are the kinds of pictures that we send. These are the kind of pictures we never send. And why? And then you're thinking about, okay, now my child needs apps. We don't allow the Google Play Store on the kid's device, but we give parents a way to curate a safe app environment for their kids. So we have a large library of apps that we have vetted and provide insight on to parents. Hey, if you choose this app, this is what you can expect. And it's either got a Troomi badge that says there are no concerns whatsoever, or it might have a green dot or a yellow dot that says this is generally safe, but be aware of XYZ. And then we even give parents the flexibility to add something that might not be in our library, but they have a particular need for, but we still draw the lines. Nothing that obviously has adult content, nothing, no dating apps, no social media. Even if a parent wanted to, they couldn't put Instagram on a Troomi phone. And then we also created a safe web browser. Half of our parents just say, I don't want any internet access for my kids. And that's great. That's the default on a Troomi phone, is there's no internet access. But that's not really practical. When you've got a 15-year-old, you still want them to have the safe environment. But a 15-year-old does need access to the internet for school, for healthy hobbies, for things. So we created a safe web browser where content is vetted, page requests are vetted in real time and either served or not served based on the criteria and family values that have been set by the parent.
I love that. I'll give you kind of an example. My oldest three boys play football, and with football, it's just a massive commitment. It's 5
Yes, it is.
nights or days a week during the season of practice. And so my entire life was just seeing GroupMe threads of that I can't make it to practice. And so many things that I don't have time to do, right? And so the kind of the problem is like, can I just have my son receive some of this stuff? And that becomes really important. I believe you're on the AT&T network, is that right?
Yeah, we use AT&T in the background. So it's when people sign up for Troomi, we are the phone company and the product. We use Samsung devices where we don't build our own hardware on purpose. We want kids to have a great Samsung phone. But it's really the operating system that's our product. But we also supply the talk, text, and data. So it's just one bill, pay your bill to Troomi, and you get the safe experience and your talk, text, and data taken care of in one place.
I'll tell you why I think this company is so impressive. Is I work with a lot of brands that even some brands that do extremely well, but all they really have done is they private labeled a product, and they're just purely a branding company. That is that is the majority of retail brands. To revolutionize an industry is and have that become a brand is 10 times more difficult. So when you're trying to go in here and you're building a company like Gab or building a company like Troomi, you have to think, okay, how do I first make this partnership with a carrier? Secondly, how do I fund this company? Thirdly, how do I now implement the apps? Fourthly, how do I? And a big question that I have, especially around this time where we're talking about Black Friday and Cyber Monday, is buying the inventory from Samsung on terms that don't bankrupt you as a company, and getting the lead times that are that still work for you, and having enough cash flow to operate before you
Yeah.
sell the phones. I imagine that's probably a big deal for you.
Yeah, it is, but I've got to say that Samsung has been an incredible, incredible partner, invested in our mission from the beginning.
That is so cool.
So yeah, early on, I had that concern of, oh my goodness, like we'll be buying 5, 10,000 phones at a time. And then they're sitting in inventory and that's really expensive and tying up cash flow. We've actually done a phenomenal job of a just-in-time inventory process.
Oh,
You
cool.
know, so we work on obviously our long-term projections, but we don't have inventory sitting on the shelf for months and months. We're buying a lot of inventory in small orders
Oh,
as
wow.
to a lot of inventory in one big order, and it's really that's been fundamental, to managing that part of the business.
At our April Retail Collective conference that we had at Stein Erickson, it was just being announced all the tariffs in the country. And I looked out into the eyes of, 100 and whatever CEOs, and that's all people wanted to talk about. And it wasn't part of it. It wasn't going to be part of it. But we opened it up and discussed tariffs. And they announced a big old tariff on China, as well as, some other countries. How is the tariff situation kind of, I'd imagine it's been one of these, difficult things for Trumi like every other business. How has it kind of impacted your business?
Do you know when all the tariff activity started, we were obviously extremely concerned. We've been okay. At one point, the president and his administration said, "Hey, there are certain categories that we're going to protect and make sure that our American businesses are getting the supply chain that they need
And
without interruption."
yeah, consumer cell phones were big.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So we haven't had disruption, uh, and keep it, knock on wood, keep your fingers crossed, right? So far, it's been okay.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about getting a business like this up and going. Some people that obviously all these great CEOs and founders that come to our events or come on the pod have founded these businesses that grow to be, 100, $600 million in business in revenue on kind of an annualized basis. But what's kind of interesting about it is thinking about how do you get the startup capital to even begin thinking about a Trumi, to be thinking about a Gab, because there is so much work to be done before you're ever going to realize your first subscription.
In starting Trumi, I was very fortunate in having wonderful people around me, and people in my personal network from my past ventures, um, who really got the mission of it, uh, and saw the need. As I talked to them about, hey, this is a new venture I'm starting. Here's the vision of what we're trying to accomplish. Um, and everyone could relate to it. So frequently when you're trying to explain a new business idea, people go, "Okay, hold on, you're doing what?
Yeah, you have to
Help
explain
me
it to them.
help me understand."
The
And
elevator pitch is like 8 minutes.
right, and in this case, it was people saying, "Oh my goodness, we need that.
Yeah,
I wish I'd had that for my kids."
yeah.
So go back to December of 2020, we raised our first $2 million in 30 days,
Holy cow.
and did that. A lot of that came through, people who had been clients of mine in the past from my agency days, and had a trusted relationship. There were guys I went to business school with. Some people that I had known for that were new introductions, and I just known them, fairly recently. Other people I'd known for 20 years. And, but it was, I laugh now because back in the day, I was like, $2 million, 30 days. Yeah, this whole fundraising thing, that ain't bad.
That is not typical.
It, And then 2023 happened, and I was like, oh, this is what people were talking about.
Oh, it's been incredible out there. We talk to investors all the time about there's all the different businesses that are trying to raise money and how illiquid money has been for the last 3 years, and it's incredible. And so much of it has to do with people having money that's not liquid because a lot of it is in land. People own land. That's where their cash flow is, whether it's in their house or whatever it is, and they can't get access to it because of interest rates. And they can't get. And the interest rate issue is it's had to stay high because the national debt's so high and we have to pay it off.
Yeah.
And so it's been a real big struggle, and so it's kind of been so sluggish, especially for new companies trying to enter in the startup space, or those first companies that are in the first 5-7 years. It's been really hard for them to access the capital. I think about this all the time. To start a retail brand over the last 5-6 years is probably the hardest in history that it's been in the last 100 years, because you had to go through COVID. Now you have to go through tariffs. You've had to go through inflations. You had so many knowns. My heart has gone out for all of these CEOs.
Yeah, and with the inflation, you've seen the effect on the consumer price index. You've seen, consumer confidence, and just all the uncertainty from the consumer level to, those venture capitalists that are just like, we're gonna hold on to our money for a little bit and see how things shake out. It has been a tough environment. There's no question.
So when this airs, this will be early on in season 3, but we're recording it now early December. I want to talk to you a little bit about the preparation that you have for like a Black Friday and a Cyber Monday. Tell me what it's like the months leading up to the end of November, and what it's like the first couple of weeks after Cyber Monday.
Yeah. Well, so you're spot on. The paradigm is months. It's not the kind of thing that you can just say, hey, Black Friday's in a couple of weeks. Let's throw something together. Those preparations, need to be going on all year. Yeah. And for a brand like ours that's focused on kids and safe phones for kids, we have 2 huge seasons. It's back to school, and it's the holidays. Those are kind of the points at which, kids tend to have that rite of passage and get their first phone.
I would imagine just those 2 spots.
It's those 4 months of the year make up a large portion of our growth. And months and months in advance, you're planning, you're doing the forecasting and making sure that you're going to have enough inventory available. So you're working with your supply chain partners, and you're planning your media, and you're planning your promotions and your advertising buys. All of that's happening way in advance, and it's a hectic time, obviously, for the marketing team. The further in advance you do it, the less hectic it is. It's the last minute ideas, it's the last minute changes that lead to some long days or even sleepless nights. And then once a Black Friday hits, you're just in execution mode. Ideally, if you've planned well, it's not stressful at that point because you're just executing on the work that's already been planned far in advance. And then it's kind of like like an accountant after April 15th. You get to go, okay, and so. Yeah, you get to take a breath after Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You're still sprinting until Christmas, but come January, it's that, okay, another fantastic season is behind us.
So let me kind of talk to you a little bit about your distribution strategy. How much of your business is direct to consumer? How much of it is related on retail stores?
We are entirely direct to consumer over the internet. We had at one point a relationship with Sam's Club, and decided that wasn't the right fit, and moved on from that. We're just in terms of our ability to uh, move people from top of a funnel and down into a consideration and purchase decision. We do that really well online, and have been very successful, and that's very much our focus.
Are there pockets of the country that you're surprised of how successful and how welcomed the reception is for your brand? It's like, wow, I didn't think that I'd necessarily do so well in X or Y or Z.
Not really. It turns out that all parents love their kids. It doesn't matter where you live. The issues that we're addressing and solving for parents, all parents are overwhelmed by. All parents are trying to wrap their heads around, how do I give my kids the benefits of technology without the risks?
Yep.
How do I give them maximum safety, but still have flexibility? Every family's dealing with that. And so, obviously, we have a lot of customers here in our home state of Utah, but, really our customer density follows population density around the country. So a ton of customers in Texas, a ton of customers in Florida, a ton of customers in the Northeast, just, where it very much follows just general population density, because Troomi's relevant to everyone.
Well, really, kind of the issue that traditional cell phone carriers have had over the last 20 years is the fact that, especially in boys, their brain doesn't fully develop till they're 26 on average, and you're trying to give them a cell phone at the age of 13, and they're so far from being capable to run it. It feels like you're giving them, a jumbo jet or something to fly, and the last thing they've driven around was a Honda Civic, or with their dad or something, and it's too overwhelming. And so it's interesting that it's taken so long for the industry to be able to make that gap more consistent and to work with each other, rather than just let everything loose. I've been a huge critic, I would say, of the kind of the regulations of the media. Kind of growing up with the SEC, you would see there was a lot of limitations on what could be played and what could be shown, and now it's gone it's out of control.
Yeah.
In fact, you'll see some shows or even some content that's been released on social specifically, because it's so hard to regulate, because people are uploading stuff all the time, that is so disturbing on images, and you just think, man, what is going on here? And so I think it's such an incredible thing what your goal is and what you guys are accomplishing. I have a couple other questions for you. I'd like to hear kind of your thoughts on how AI is going to affect Troomi over the next 3 to 5 years.
So AI, I get passionate when I talk about AI. I've given a couple of keynotes where I really get fired up, because I look at AI and I love it for the purpose of making my natural abilities, for example, more efficient, faster. But I think there's a line that we've got to be very careful of, that we don't let it replace our natural abilities. I just read an article over the weekend about kids showing up at college and university having passed an AP mathematics class, but they get into a college math class and they can't add fractions. Because so much of the work they've done, they've had help from AI, and they're not learning and they're not thinking. And this is happening to adults too. Like there is the potential for AI to absolutely dumb us down. And so we got to be so careful. It's got to happen on an individual basis. How do I get the benefit of AI without destroying my creativity, without destroying my initiative, without destroying my ability to reason? And so, with kids and technology, you've got those questions. How do we preserve childhood for kids and not let AI take over? We don't want to repeat the mistakes we made with social media and giving social media to kids before they're ready for it.
I totally hear you. I mean, some AI is extraordinarily efficient. Like I think about something like Grammarly, they can, that the error rate is really really low. I play around a lot with Anthropic and Gemini and ChatGPT and Grok, and I'm amazed how flawed they are in multiple ways. One is, first off, I'll have them speak to the other on a topic, and how quickly they'll change their mind.
Yeah.
I'm amazed is also how much they're set up to give you positive feedback on answers that would benefit you. Um, you actually have to, I've had to go in and put in many prompts. Give me the most neutral answer you can, and I am not the person that you think I am, because I don't want them giving me false feedback. It's been very interesting. I don't know if you kind of had the same experience, but AI, it's obviously the graphic AI is, I think, will improve probably the most over the next 3 or 4 years. You're not going to get people with six fingers on their hands and stuff like that. But some of it, there is a bit of a danger. As listening to Elon Musk talk about how he believes that work is going to be optional in the next 10 years. My big take on AI, particularly, is that there's certain things that it doesn't replace. Like you're talking about marketing, kind of your big background. We had a great retail collective AI conversation uh, on our January summit this last year with Nathan Wigglesworth, who helps with the Michael Jordan brand, and Jeff Curl, the founder of Stance and former CEO of Skull Candy, and Brady Edwards, who worked with Mr. Beast. And really, kind of the big thing that they're talking about is, look, yeah, Midjourney's fantastic to use. The problem is, unless you can give it a proper storyboard, then it can't really do anything. So that you still have to have the creativity of the
Yeah.
individual in order for it to ever produce something that's proper. And so it's interesting the different limitations. My big takeaway is uh, AI, specifically in retail, everything's going to be leaning a lot more into personal relationships because that's something that AI cannot replace. And kind of that trust level is going to be even more important than it has been. And so people are either going to have to either really work really hard on their EQ skills or kind of be left behind. Uh, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
We're already there, Jeremy. Even before AI, we've already been dehumanizing ourselves with a tech first paradigm of life.
Oh yeah.
And I am surprised, not surprised anymore, by the number of people who are not comfortable picking up a phone and actually talking to someone,
Yeah.
or making friends or dating outside of a tech enabled environment.
Terrible.
We're losing a part of humanity
Yes,
when
exactly.
we build technology into everything. And so, like, part of our mission at Trumi is to yes, give kids the tools they need to be connected to their families, to have tools they need for school or hobbies, whatever those things are, but not as a lifestyle.
That's right.
I always talk about, technology was intended to be a tool. And the minute it becomes a tyrant, and becomes the go-to for every waking moment we have, for every moment of spare time that we have, or for every cognitive process that we want to achieve, we've lost ourselves.
That's right.
It's got to be a tool and not a tyrant.
It's really true. I was doing one of my those AI queries that I do all the time during the day, and I was hanging out with my kids, and we just picked out a Christmas tree yesterday, and it was really fun. And then we came in and watched the Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen, and I just caught myself thinking, I was like, what on earth am I doing anthropic queries when I could just be hanging out with my kids. And so I put it down, but it's very true. There's a part where you're just like, what is the point of going doing the excess, the stuff that is not overly important. So tell me a little bit about as we kind of close up here. I'd love to hear kind of the roadmap over the next 5 years with Troomi.
So we are looking at constantly looking at the evolution of the product. We want to be driven absolutely by a very authentic relationship with our customers. We do a lot of listening and talking, not just to parents but to kids. That's central to our brand. We're in this beautiful, it's every marketer's dream come true, I guess you could say, of having something that's mission driven, but that can also be very, very, very successful from a business perspective. And for us, always focusing on that mission in an authentic way, living the mission. So for example, when I say I don't want kids to have a tech first lifestyle, people will look at me and be like, you're a technology company. This was illustrated recently when a guy that I know called me the week before school was starting, and he said, hey, my daughter's starting kindergarten next week. Could you get me one of your phones in time? And I said, no, I can't. And he said, you can't get it for me on time? And I said, oh, no, that's not the issue. I'm not selling you a phone for a 5-year-old.
That's right.
Because very authentically, we want kids to be in real life first. And I think 5 is too young to get kids started on technology.
I was going to say, it's incredible how easy the mission becomes the forefront of your business. I mean, we deal with brands all the time, and some of them, I mean, I'd say 80% of them have a really difficult time finding the mission of their brand because it's maybe they're selling a tire or a coloring book or something. It's hard to get passionate behind that, right? But you have a natural one that's really built in that is something that's more of like a political topic, just naturally. It's just like a sociology topic. And so the mission, it's easy for that one to actually have been formed, and then the brand comes second, where everybody else is like, we've got to create an amazing mission. And you're like, but how do you do that given the type of product that you're selling?
Yeah, 100%. No, that's never been the challenge for us. So yeah, looking forward, it will be the continual evolution of the product based on the technologies that are evolving all around us. Frankly, none of us know, what is it going to look like in 5 years? No idea, because things are changing so fast. And the things that we're protecting kids from, those things will always be evolving. The opportunities to provide parents with empowerment and insight, those opportunities will always be evolving. So we spend a lot of time understanding parents and understanding this landscape so we can always have, just the best product possible and let the brand be mission and product driven.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to end on the most hardcore of questions. If you had one sporting event to go to that'd be your ideal sporting event, what would it be? Hockey related, and would it be in the Olympics? What would it be? What would be the matchup?
It would be BYU in a college football championship.
Oh, really?
Oh, hands down.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be paying attention this weekend because
Yes, indeed.
put them right in. Well, this has been awesome, Bill. Thanks so much for jumping on, and I'm so excited to have you part of the bigger ecosystem as we with Retail Collective and having you on Retail War Games, and certainly we'll be cheering you on.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. Great to be with you.
You have a wonderful day.
In the fast paced world of retail, technology can be a transformative force, reshaping the way businesses operate and consumers shop. Is your retail organization leveraging technology to its top capabilities? Evolving your technology capabilities can help enhance visibility into your business, decrease risk of increasing cybersecurity incidents, accelerate productivity with artificial intelligence, and more. Deeply immersed in the consumer products industry, Baker Tilly professionals bring customized solutions that can help you find the right technology fit. Visit bakertilly.com to learn more.